Hey everyone, welcome to the new moon forecast for the new moon we have coming up in Taurus. I'm Kendall with Bohemian Tarot Girl.
And I'm Amy with Wild's Reawakening. And we have this wonderful, grounded, sensual new moon coming in Taurus. And it's happening April 27th, 2025 at 12:29 p.m. Pacific. So go ahead and adjust that for wherever you are in the world. And it's happening at 7 degrees and 46 minutes of Taurus. So this is a really significant new moon energy that's coming in because we are just coming off of all of those personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, at the beginning of the year that have been in retrograde, and now they are currently all moving forward. And so we're kind of going into this situation where we're having the momentum where to kind of bring into our reality some of the ideas and thoughts and insights and pieces that we've gained over the course of these retrogrades and kind of integrating them into the more 3D world. So this is a very good moon for kind of getting your feet underneath you and getting a solid ground and ability to kind of like start creating and building kind of your future forward. So we have a lot to talk about.
We do. This is such an interesting one, and I really do feel like, it's a new moon, and that's usually when we set intentions and we do that sort of work. And I think this one is this great grounding one and it's going to be the start to a new story that we have coming up. I feel like some things are wrapping up kind of in the mix as we'll look at it, but it's really that start to for us to kick off and really dive in and set our new intentions and kind of look at the new world that we want to bring in and manifest for our lives. So I'm really excited for this one.
It is. It's there's a lot of interesting energy around this, a lot of positive energy, but also a lot of really insightful energy that's coming in. Um, Having all of these planets recently in retrograde, and these weren't just like typical planets that were retrograde. We had this series of what we call the personal planets, which are the planets that are closest to Earth, which are more involved in your own personal growth, not necessarily like the outer planets that are more about collective growth. And some of them, like Mars, were in the same sign for a very long time, and it was going back and forth and doing kind of deep internal work in one sign. And so uh, you may have seen a lot of things happen while that was going on. Mars doesn't like to be in Cancer. Cancer is a homebody. Cancer likes its comfort zones. It's emotional. It's about like your family dynamics. And so to have that extended period of time where Mars was in Cancer, not really being able to move forward, but transversing old territory and old stories and going over things that needed to be given a second look. Like now we're moving forward and Mars is entering Leo, which is a fire sign, which definitely has a better relationship with Mars because Mars is all about action and fire is all about action. And so you're going to see that the energy around being motivated and getting things done and having this forward progression is going to start amping up now that Mars is moving forward. So, and then we had Venus that was retrograde as well. And that was going over old personal stories around your values and your worth and what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not willing to tolerate in your relationships, and also healing old relationship patterns or old relationships with previous partnerships. And now that's moving forward. So currently, as we're recording and up until just after this new move, no, May 4th, all planets are moving direct at the same time,
Hmm.
which is rare.
Yeah.
So if there is any time where the energy is favorable for you to start something new, to go off on a new direction, to start creating and putting something out into the world, this is the prime energy for that. So, no excuses.
I like it.
Yeah.
This is a moment.
Yes. And if we like kind of look at the energy of Taurus, new moons happen when the sun and the moon are in the same space in the sky. And Kendall and I were just talking about this. This new moon is considered a super moon because the moon is sitting really close to the Earth in its orbit right now. Even though it is a dark moon and we won't be able to see it, the energy is still closer, which gives it a little bit more of an impact. New moons, it's like when you plant the seed and then you wait as the moon gets full for your seeds to grow. And of course, there's always that's the short cycle of things. We always talk about how, the moon cycles kind of have different patterns. We have from new moon to full moon, we have from this new moon until we have the full moon in Taurus, which will be in 6 months. And then we have the year cycle, which will be when we come back to this new moon next year. So whatever you are starting to plant seeds for now is really significant in what will start to grow over the course of these cycles that are happening with the moon. And Taurus energy is all about what you are bringing into your 3D reality. It's what is stable, what is long lasting, what feels good, what is brings you joy in your physical reality because Taurus is ruled by Venus. And Venus is all about the good stuff in your life. So your money, your love, your comfort, what your physical surroundings. So this is just the prime energy for taking all of the lessons that we've had in the last couple of months, all of the healing that you've done in the last few months, all of the insights that have been downloaded through the spiritual aspects that have been happening in Pisces, and integrating that into the direction that you want to move forward. So
Yep. I
that was
like
a mouthful.
that. Now, this new moon, I really do feel like it's going to allow us to be very grounded in our efforts and really bring in the stuff that we need and want, which I think is wonderful. I think that's what a lot of people want right now is that kind of reassurance that the Taurus energy is going to bring. It's a lot less fiery and flighty than, some of the Aries energy, that fire energy that we've seemed to be have been sitting in for quite a while, right? Or the emotional side, the Pisces energy that seems to come in a lot. So I really like that. And I do feel like as we're looking at all this, all these pieces coming in, it's really the end of wrapping up a lot of cycles that kind of have a way of showing us what we really want when we go to set our intentions. And so when we're looking at that Mars and Pluto opposition, that's going to be very exact during this new moon. That piece really came to us and kind of this will be the three-part ending of that series. And so we started off in the early fall in the November time period. And we had that first bump of it, right? And so those are the lessons that you want to see, what you have learned over this time, and where you're kind of winding up right now. What are the final pieces that are being brought to you? Have you learned some of the lessons that have come up in these last couple of, this last month or so, I would say. I think some things have really shown themselves to you as you've paid attention to these moons. So anything that you have, definitely write down and journal it because these are really things that are going to be life changing for you. And I feel like there's there's been some realizations in your lives if you really sit back and look at it and figure out how it's impacted you in experiences you've had that have changed maybe the vision in which you want your life to be. And so taking that into perspective as we come and set intentions for this new cycle, I think is really key. So,
Mhm. Yeah, this Mars Pluto opposition has been a big player. So Mars right now is in Leo, Pluto is in Aquarius. They're sitting exactly opposite each other. And typically when Mars is a much faster moving planet than Pluto. Pluto's going to stay in the sign for anywhere from like 14 to 20 something years. So Mars has a much shorter cycle of about, what would you say, like 90 to 90 days ish?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it typically will, and it doesn't retrograde that often. So what happened was typically going through Mars cycle, it'll have like one period of time with this Mars Pluto opposition in its full cycle of going through all the signs of the zodiac. But because it retrograded, it crossed over that opposition and then retrograded back over that opposition. And now we're going back over the same territory again. So we're having three times with this really significant aspect. And Mars is forward direction. It's fiery. It's the planet of war, so there can be some volatility to it. It is fast moving. It's kind of acts first and then deals with the repercussions later. Like that's just Mars. It wants to move and it wants to go fast. Pluto is about transformation, and it's about endings and be, rebirth, the deeper layers of things, kind of the resurrection kind of energy of what needs to die so that something else can be born. So you have this situation where these two are coming together and they're opposing each other. And what it's doing is it's highlighting what in your life has needed transformation, what in your life needed to fall away so that you could move into this next version of yourself and be more aligned in who you are and the path that you want for yourself. And so now we're seeing kind of this culmination of, like you said, this three-part interaction where these are going on, and it's almost been like happening in layers. Like, we're going to show you this piece and then let you integrate it for a little bit, and then we're going to hit it again so you can get it even a deeper understanding. And so you may have noticed that there's been some really significant areas of your life, and you can look in your chart to see what houses these two planets are sitting in at this time, because that'll give you an indicator of kind of the axis that is being hit with this energy. And it's opening up new pathways for you to move in a direction that feels more in line with who you are and what you want and what you most desire. And that is going to be the most beneficial to your personal growth and your journey. So it's really significant, but it's not necessarily comfortable when you're having to face these deeper aspects of yourself and to have things fall away or have things shift in a very rapid way, because Mars is not taking its time to slowly dismantle this Lego house. Like, it's coming in and just stomping it to the ground. So just pay attention to what's going on with that. And then Leo and Aquarius are fixed signs, and so is Taurus. And so they are forming this T square because they're both making a square to Taurus, where the sun and the moon are sitting. And so that's even adding extra pressure to let things fall, but then what are you going to create in its place? So that's giving us more of that creation energy with this new moon. So being very intentional with being intentional with setting your intentions, but being very thoughtful and mindful and aware of what you are birthing into existence right now is super important.
I agree.
So,
Yes. You want to be very conscious of what you want to bring in right now, because you don't want to be dragging in stuff that you should have cleared or that have really exited your life too, and you're just kind of holding on to it. So that is something I would be aware of if you're doing that intention setting work during this time for sure. Yeah.
mhm. And intentions aren't just like what you sit down and write, even though that is very like a good way of sealing something more into the concrete realm. It's just sit and write them out. But it's in your everyday thoughts and beliefs and your way of looking at the world. And so if you're one of those people who is, you know, leans into the catastrophe of everything that's happening around you, that's the energy that you are focusing on, and that is going to kind of be amplified in in whatever creation is happening. So being really mindful of the direction that your thoughts are going and trying to stay in state of, I don't want to say positivity because I don't want to sound like false positivity, but staying in an elevated
Yes.
state of your personal vibration and your personal pathways is very important. And we say this all the time because
Yeah.
it's easy to kind of like let external situations come in and infiltrate your personal peace and disrupt your thoughts, and that disrupts the how what you are creating.
Mhm.
Be very aware of where
Yes.
your mind is going during this time. Well, anytime, it's every time. It's not just now, but um, be very mindful of where your thoughts and your beliefs and your emotions
Mhm.
are sitting right now.
I agree. I think that's a good point, is especially right now with things being in so kind of a flux, I think, in our, country and throughout the world, is that, really paying attention to our feelings. And so we have a tendency to like hop on and watch the news. I've noticed that with my mother. She gets on the news and she has anxiety from watching the news. And so that is being manifested then when she does her work for her personal life, right? Is because that fear and those feelings of fear and negativity have been brought really by what she was watching. And it's not something she's necessarily trying to bring into her life, but she's holding that feeling. And a lot of times when we consume media like that, we have to be very conscious because we do have a tendency to be tied into it. And we have those feelings that really kind of mess around with what we're manifesting and try to bring into this world. So just be aware of what you are watching and what you're consuming right now and how you're feeling, and making sure that you're keeping, like Amy said, that really high vibrational, feeling about what you want to create. So that's really important when you're doing this work. So yeah.
It actually came up this week in conversation with a client of mine that I coach, and it was, what can you do in this? And one of the things that we talked about, and I kind of brought to her awareness, is that we were never meant, and I've heard this come around a couple of times recently, but I just want to reiterate it, is that we were never meant as humans to know what was happening on the opposite side of the world. If we go back before we had access to so much media and so much information and information overload, our circle of awareness was so much smaller, and it consisted of what was happening in our neighborhoods and in our communities and with our families. And we didn't have all of this information of what was happening everywhere else. And media has a way of taking the worst of the worst and using it to elicit a reaction, an emotional reaction within you, to create fear, to create discord, and to make you look outside of yourself at something. Because if you're worrying about that, you're not focusing on your own internal landscape and your own internal growth and your own intuition and awareness. And so it's just really important, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, take a break from listening to all the outside noise and get back and bring your circle in closer, and look at the good that's happening around you. Look at the good that you can create on your own. There's nothing you can do about what's happening on the other side of the world. We do not have that amount of power as an individual to change what is happening in those situations. Are they tragic? Yes. Do we wish we had more ability to change things? Yes. Do we actually have the ability right now on this day to make any change of difference onto something that's happening there? No. But you do have the ability to kind of create the ripple effect by changing the energy in your immediate environment. And if enough people do that, then it starts to change the overall vibration of what is happening. So it's not, the conversation came up, well, are you just putting your head in the sand? And it's like, no, but I am protecting my peace and I am using my influence in my direct community and something that I do have control over. And so uh, it doesn't do anyone any good if everyone's spiraling out of control over things that they have no ability to change. So, okay.
Yep.
Done with
That's
the
good. No, that's important. I feel like this is such a good start to somewhere, for like if you want to start manifesting work, if you want to realign where you want to go, this is the moon. And so it's really important that you let go of all that negative, like outside noise that's going to come in and kind of distract you from what you really want to create. And this moment is all about you being physically in your body. That's very Taurus. And really making sure that you're meeting your body's needs as well as, like grounding yourself. And so you're conscious is grounded to this world right here. And so making sure that you're ready to go during this time, I think is super important.
maintaining your own personal energetic vibration is the most rebellious thing you can do right now. Like,
Mhm.
just they don't want you. I don't even know who they are. We're just this, whoever they are, but the forces that be don't want you to feel at ease and in your most empowered state. And so the most rebellious thing you can do is make sure that you are staying in your own peace and using your forces for good. So
100%.
yeah. Um,
Do we
and
want
that, like, I feel like that is kind of leaning into the other aspect that is happening in the fixed signs, which is not a typical energy that we talk about because it's not one of the planets. It's actually a mathematical point in the sky where there's the void between the Earth and the furthest point of the moon. And that is what they call and have labeled Black Moon Lilith. And the story of Lilith being kind of like the rebellious feminine. um, it comes in to kind of like show you what is hidden, kind of where you have what the things that are untamed within you, where you are rebellious, where you have your dark hidden desires. Um, it's a pretty powerful energy that comes with it. And it's been sitting in Scorpio, which is kind of like probably the most perfect pairing for Black Moon Lilith.
100%? Yeah.
All about what's hidden and what's underlying and what needs to be looked into deeper. And being in Scorpio and another fixed sign, so it's also squaring the Pluto and Mars, and it's also opposing the Sun and the Moon in Taurus. And it's really kind of taking us through like looking at where we have not been valued, where we've not been held sacred, where what needs to be kind of like revolutionized and changed and brought to justice within ourselves, and maybe where we have felt disempowered and not held sacredly. And
Yep.
so this energy is really highlighting those things so that we can use that Pluto energy of transformation to really step up and take ownership of our own power and how we move through life and making sure that we're in alignment with what it is that we hold most sacred within ourselves. So it's a pretty powerful. Black Moon Lilith has been in Scorpio from March 27th. It'll be there until December 20th. So this is kind of a long-standing energy that we're going to see.
Yeah, I feel like this energy for this moment in time is really if you focus in on the Venus aspects in your life, and then you kind of put the lens of what is holding you back? What would it look like if you had no fear? Those sort of pieces in context of that Venus stuff that you're trying to manifest and bring into your like physical reality. I think that's where the key is right now, is that that piece can really show you a mirror to really see where you could be. And it could show you, I guess, the negative, the flip side to that too. And you have to be aware of that, but really show you where you're probably coming at things with a little bit of just you're not being your true authentic self is how I would put it. And so really living in who you want to be and making those actions in your life, I think are key during this time. And there is that, you know, we are still experiencing that, the Leo, the little fire energy here with Mars. And so taking that action in that step. And Pluto with that changing power and it being in Aquarius, it's really asking us um, to kind of use those two as a combination, right? And come forward and really use our mental and our physical and our fiery energy to kind of kickstart and get some stuff done. So, yeah.
Mhm. And then the only other thing that I really had standing out for this moon that's kind of directly aspecting the sun moon conjunction in Taurus is well, I guess it's not even but it is Uranus has been in Taurus. We're nearing the end of Taurus's time with Uranus. It's been 7 years almost, and so we're at 26 degrees now, and we know 30 is the culmination of when it'll switch into Gemini. And Uranus has been shaking stuff up in our reality. And you've seen that in financial markets, and we've seen that in housing prices, and kind of like the stability has been kind of shaky because Uranus is the planet that comes up and shakes things up, and it's unexpected and revolutionary, and you don't really know what it's going to do. But there's a big purpose for that. Like it can add to unexpected, but also can add to surprises. And currently it's sextiling the North Node, Venus, and Saturn, which are all sitting in Pisces right now, all conjunct with each other, which is another really potent energy.
Yep.
Um, because Saturn gives stability and growth, and Venus is the things that you love. So anything that you are focusing on within growth within the things that you love. And then North Node is the direction that we're moving in spiritually, like what we want to kind of progress into. And that is in Pisces, which is just all about your intuition and your spiritual nature and all of those things. And so what this is happening is that this Uranus, this revolutionary, unpredictable agent of change,
100%.
supporting you in your dreams and creating a leap of faith towards something that you want to bring into your life. Um, it's supporting positive growth. It's supporting increasing your intuition and following it, even if it doesn't make sense, because you're getting information and downloads that are helping to kind of push you along your path on the right direction, with the right information, the right tools, the right people. There is an aspect and a need to really lean in and trusting the direction that things are moving in, but also trusting in yourself to get and pay attention to the information that you're receiving.
Yep.
Knowing whether or not it makes sense. It doesn't need to make sense in our current environment. It just needs to make sense for you and for you to follow the path that is being presented to you as it's being presented. Um, just from personal experience, I know when you're going through those situations, you don't see the whole path all at once. The universe likes to give you one step at a time, and you make that step, and then you see the next right step. So, taking the leap of faith and starting out on the path and starting to take the steps that are necessary to create the life vision that you have for yourself is so important right now, and it's also so supported. So
I
just keep that
completely
in mind.
agree.
You have a crazy idea, it may not really be that crazy. It may just be the direction that you are being prompted to move in.
I
So
agree. Anything else, anything that comes up, pay attention to what, where the universe is leading you. Sometimes things happen and you get doors open and you just kind of have to go ahead and take that little step inside and see what really happens in your life and see if that change is good for you. So, and I kind of feel like this is a moment where you're going to just jump into some things. And you probably have already potentially had that experience coming up and really taking note of it. I think right now is key too. So when you look back at these energies coming in fall, you're going to kind of pay attention to this time frame in our life. And so I would say, take a moment to journal everything, or write it down, see what kind of changes are in your life and maybe where you shifted your viewpoints of what you wanted to manifest and bring into your life. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else you
Yeah.
want to add?
Not really, I'm just really feel like if you've been feeling kind of held back or stuck or like things aren't moving or you're hitting brick walls, like this is the energy shift that you've been waiting for in order to get started on actually moving forward again. So there's the pathways being cleared. Um, the soil is prime for growing new seeds. Like this is it. And I don't know, I'm a Taurus. I love Taurus energy. Like it feels comfortable to me. It's not necessarily the fastest moving energy, but it is methodical and it's steady and it's purposeful. And it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. Like
Mhm.
it's going to get to where it needs to go and in its own time. So don't get frustrated if things don't like ultimately manifest overnight. But keep at it and keep with the intentions and hold the vision, and it has no choice at this point in time with this energy not to manifest into something that you are creating. So
Love that. All right, everyone. We will see you next time for the full moon. Bye, everyone.